At first, it might seem harmless or even satisfying to sprinkle salt on a snail slowly crawling across your garden. But what happens next is shocking and strange, a mix of biology, chemistry, and chaos. Snails are about 90% water. That slimy body isn't just gross, it's like a soft water balloon, and salt is basically a tiny death sentence. As soon as the salt touches the snail's skin, it pulls water out very quickly through osmosis. The slug doesn't just shrink slowly, it twists and writhes violently, looking like it's in real pain. The dehydration is extreme. The snail's cells burst, turning its body into a frothy, foamy mass that spreads over its slime. But there's more. This foam releases distress chemicals, called pheromones, that can attract dozens of other snails nearby. So, your quick solution can actually cause a slug stampede, bringing even more to the same deadly spot. And it gets worse. Salt can also harm your soil and plants, so using it isn't just cruel, it's also bad for your garden. What seems like an easy fix ends up being both inhumane and harmful. The real lesson? Snails are strange, resilient, and smart in their own chemical way. Instead of salt, you can protect your garden using natural barriers like copper tape, coffee grounds, or moving them at night. These methods are safer for your plants and kinder to the slugs. Next time you see a snail, remember, it's not just a pest, it's a tiny wriggling chemical reactor. And salt? That's not seasoning. That's instant slug apocalypse. That horrifying slime apocalypse is only the beginning. Let's move on to even stranger, and sometimes deadly behaviors in the animal kingdom, because nature has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. The plant that can melt flesh. When you think of plants, the last thing that comes to mind is horror. But some plants are literally chemical assassins. Certain carnivorous plants produce enzymes so powerful that they can break down living tissue, almost like nature's own acid. Take the giant pitcher plant or some species of sundew. Their leaves aren't just sticky, they're deadly traps. Insects, small animals, and even tiny amphibians can become victims. Once they land on the plant, digestive fluids start to seep, and the enzymes begin breaking down proteins and tissues, essentially melting the prey alive over time. It's not just brute force. These plants are master chemists. The enzymes target specific compounds in flesh, turning it into a nutrient-rich soup the plant can absorb. The process is slow but unstoppable. What's even stranger? The plant doesn't hunt actively. It waits silently, almost like a biological predator lying in ambush. This is why these plants are more than oddities. They're living chemical reactors. A touch or a misstep near one of these species might not kill a human immediately, but it shows how far nature will go to survive and feed itself. In the plant kingdom, death doesn't always move, and sometimes it waits in stillness, hidden in green. The frog that explodes to reproduce. Nature has some very strange ways to survive and reproduce, but few are as shocking as the male frog that explodes to fertilize eggs. Some species, like the Microhyla fissipes in Southeast Asia, use a fatal method to pass on their genes. During mating season, the male frog's body swells with pressure until it can no longer hold it. At the critical moment, the frog bursts open, releasing sperm in a violent explosion that fertilizes nearby eggs. This kills the frog, but it ensures its genes are passed on. The explosion isn't just dramatic, it's biologically extreme. Their bodies rupture suddenly, creating a grotesque scene. But there's a hidden benefit. The nutrients from the dead frog help feed the next generation of tadpoles, giving them a better chance to survive. This shows how far evolution can go. Sometimes, a creature's own body becomes a tool for survival and reproduction. In nature, even death can serve a purpose, and in this case, it literally spreads life in the most shocking way imaginable. And this isn't even the strangest example. So if you're enjoying this so far, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. The fish that drinks acid for breakfast. Most creatures would die instantly if they swam in highly acidic water. But some fish have taken survival to a whole new level. They thrive in toxic, acidic environments that would kill almost any other animal. These fish live in waters with extremely low pH, often caused by natural acid springs or volcanic activity. Instead of being harmed, their bodies have adapted to neutralize the acid, protecting their tissues from damage. Their digestive systems and gills are specially designed to handle the corrosive water, letting them eat, breathe, and swim where most life cannot survive. What makes them even stranger is how they turn this deadly environment into an advantage. By living in waters so toxic, they face almost no predators, and their competition for food is extremely limited. In a sense, their bodies have turned poison into protection, drinking water that would be lethal to any other species. These fish are living proof that nature doesn't just find a way, it sometimes creates life that seems impossible, thriving where survival seems chemically absurd. The frog that turns into its own poison. Some frogs don't just carry poison, they become poison themselves. Certain species have evolved a deadly defense system that turns their own bodies into chemical weapons. These frogs absorb toxic chemicals from the insects they eat, like ants and beetles. Instead of breaking those chemicals down, their bodies store and modify them, spreading the toxins across their skin. The result is a living creature that is dangerous to touch, taste, or bite. Predators that try to eat these frogs often regret it instantly. Even a small amount of the toxin can cause paralysis, heart failure, or death. Bright colors on the frog's skin act as a warning sign, telling predators, "Don't even try." What makes this even more unsettling is that the frog isn't born poisonous. Without the right diet, it loses its toxicity. This means the frog's poison is not just biological, it's environmental, built from the world around it. This is chemical warfare in the wild. No teeth, no claws, just a small, silent animal that turns its own skin into a lethal shield. Proof that in nature, survival doesn't always come from strength, but from chemistry. Why leeches make you itch before they bite? Leeches don't just bite without warning. In many cases, they make you itch first, and that's not an accident. It's part of their feeding strategy. When a leech attaches to your skin, it releases special chemicals that affect your nerves. These chemicals can cause a mild itching or tingling feeling, tricking you into thinking it's just a harmless irritation. While you're distracted, the leech cuts into the skin using tiny, sharp jaws. At the same time, the leech injects anesthetic and anticoagulant substances. The anesthetic numbs the pain so you don't feel the bite, and the anticoagulant keeps your blood flowing freely. That's why people often don't realize a leech is feeding on them until much later, sometimes only after seeing blood. This combination of itch, numbness, and silent feeding is what makes leeches so disturbing. They don't attack with force. They manipulate your body's own signals, turning your nerves and blood chemistry against you. It's subtle biological horror, proof that some of nature's most effective predators don't need speed or strength. They just need patience and chemistry. The worm that lives in your feet without you knowing. There is a parasite that can enter your body through your feet, and you might not feel it happen at all. It's called the hookworm, and it lives in soil contaminated with human waste. When someone walks barefoot, the tiny worm burrows through the skin, usually between the toes or on the sole of the foot. At first, it may cause nothing more than a slight itch or rash, easy to ignore. The worm travels through the bloodstream, eventually reaching the lungs and then the intestines. Inside the body, hookworms attach to the intestinal wall and feed on blood. Over time, this can cause fatigue, anemia, weakness, and malnutrition, especially in children. Many people carry these worms for years without realizing what's causing their symptoms. What makes this truly horrifying is how quiet the infection is. There's no dramatic pain, no obvious warning, just a parasite living inside you, feeding slowly while you go about your life unaware. It's real-life body horror, and a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous threats are the ones you never feel at all. The creature that makes zombie ants. In forests around the world, ants are being turned into zombies by a parasite. It is often mistaken for a spider, but the real cause is a parasitic fungus. The process begins when an ant comes into contact with fungal spores on the forest floor. These spores enter the ant's body through tiny openings in its outer shell. At first, the ant looks completely normal and continues working with its colony. Inside the ant, the fungus slowly grows through its body, spreading into muscles and tissues. It does not destroy the ant's brain. Instead, it controls the ant's body directly using chemical signals. At the right moment, the fungus forces the ant to leave its colony and climb up a plant. The ant is made to bite down on a leaf or branch with extreme force and lock its jaws permanently. This is known as the death grip. Soon after, the ant dies, but the parasite is not finished. The fungus then grows out of the ant's head, forming a stalk that releases thousands of new spores into the air. These spores fall onto ants below and infect them. The fungus controls every step very precisely, choosing the perfect height, temperature, and humidity to spread itself. The ant is not just killed, it is used as a tool to help the parasite survive and spread. This is real mind control in nature, a parasite that takes over a living body and turns an insect into a zombie, step by step. The snail that can eat its own shell. A snail's shell looks solid and permanent, but in extreme conditions, it can become emergency food. Some snails are able to eat their own shells to survive. When food is scarce or the environment becomes too harsh, these snails begin breaking down parts of their shell. The shell is made mostly of calcium, which the snail's body can reabsorb. This helps the snail maintain vital body functions when nutrients are hard to find. As the shell slowly thins, the snail becomes more vulnerable to predators and damage. But for the snail, this is a calculated risk. It's better to weaken the shell than to starve completely. Once conditions improve, the snail can rebuild its shell, using calcium from its diet and surroundings. This ability turns the shell into a temporary resource, not just armor. It's survival at an uncomfortable level, an animal literally consuming part of its own body to stay alive, proving that in nature, even protection can become food when survival is on the line. The lizard that shoots blood from its eyes. It sounds impossible, almost fake, but deep in the deserts of North America lives a creature with one of the strangest defenses ever recorded. When danger gets too close, this lizard doesn't run, it doesn't bite, it fires blood from its own eyes. This animal is the horned lizard, sometimes called the horned toad. Most of the time it looks calm and harmless, blending perfectly with sand and rocks. But when a predator like a dog, fox, or coyote corners it, something extreme happens. The lizard rapidly increases blood pressure in tiny vessels around its eyes. These vessels swell until they intentionally rupture, sending thin streams of blood shooting out from the corners of its eyes. The blood can spray several feet and is aimed directly at the attacker's face. This is not panic, it's strategy. The blood is loaded with chemicals from the ants the lizard eats, especially harvester ants. These chemicals make the blood bitter and irritating, and predators find the taste overwhelming. When the blood hits their mouth or eyes, they recoil in shock, shaking their heads and backing away. For the predator, the moment is confusing and disgusting. For the lizard, it's a perfect escape window. Even stranger, the lizard doesn't bleed to death. The blood loss is small, the vessels quickly close, and the tissue heals. The lizard can use this defense again if needed, making it one of the few animals that turns its own blood into a reusable weapon. In a world where most creatures survive by speed or strength, this lizard chose a different path. It weaponized its fear, turned pain into protection. Nature didn't just give it armor or claws, it gave it eye-mounted blood cannons. And that's all for today. If you found these stories as shocking as we did, make sure to hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next mind-boggling discovery. Tap the notification bell too so you get instant updates the moment a new video drops. And if you want even more bizarre and creepy wonders of nature, check out the videos on screen right now. They're full of twists, surprises, and creatures you won't believe exist.